Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. On today's show, Ian Rapoport provided the latest on the Aaron Rodgers situation last night, and things are getting interesting. And then we'll talk about the latest wide receiver rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, as a number of different receivers are now being linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers here just before the start of NFL free agency. Now, before we get into the content today, if you guys want to pick up one of our channel t-shirts here, you can go chatsports.com/Steelers Talk. You guys have been buying these things up crazy like hotcakes, and I can't thank you guys so enough for your support. You guys have been asking for specifically this t-shirt for a while, and it's just $24.99 on our website right now. It's a really good way to help out and so help support our channel. It helps pay for our rent and all of the equipment that we use here and all that different stuff. So we really do appreciate all of your guys' support. My bosses tell me the more of these babies that we sell, the more merch opportunities we are going to get here on Steelers Talk when we make a big trade this offseason, when we make a big free agency signing next week, when and if Aaron Rodgers makes his decision, the NFL draft. We're going to have a bunch of great merch opportunities for you guys. So if you guys want a Steelers Talk t-shirt to wear around the house, to wear at Steelers training camp in Latrobe, at Steelers games, wherever, go chatsports.com/Steelers Talk to pick up your Steelers Talk channel t-shirt today. Now, the clock certainly seems to be ticking on Aaron Rodgers deciding and letting the Steelers know what his future is going to be heading into the 2026 season, as NFL Network's Ian Rapoport reports that Pittsburgh, quote-unquote, expects to have an answer from Aaron Rodgers, quote-unquote, before free agency begins this year. This is what Rap had to say last night on The Insiders. Here's what I know. The Steelers do expect a decision from Aaron Rodgers before free agency. There has been intimation that would be the case. Rodgers said there's no deadline, but the Steelers aren't going to offer a deal until they know that he's going to accept a deal. So all of that sort of makes sense. Still hope it's done by next week. If not, then the Steelers really face the decision of, do we go out and get another quarterback because we don't know about Rodgers? That's probably going to be the most significant decision that awaits their offseason. So hopefully for them, Aaron Rodgers lets them and maybe all of us know his plans. Now, just so you guys know, NFL free agency officially begins at the start of the new league year, which is next Wednesday, March 11th. But the legal tampering period in the National Football League, which is really the unofficially official start of free agency, where you see a lot of the deals get done and all this different stuff, it all starts next Monday, March 9th. Now, there is some moving pieces in the quarterback market this year. Kyler Murray can't agree to terms with a team until next Wednesday, because that's when the Cardinals are going to be releasing him. And same thing goes for Geno Smith and some of these other quarterbacks that could be released by their teams. So Rodgers may have a little bit of time after that legal tampering period begins to make his decision. But I definitely think that the clock is ticking here on Aaron Rodgers, who kind of seemed like he's willing to take his time to make a decision here. But honestly, I'm not sure if the NFL is going to cater to his timeline this year if he wants to play NFL football here in 2026. Now, coming up here on Steelers Talk, my thoughts on the Rodgers situation. I'm going to be breaking down, what I think is going to happen here with Aaron Rodgers, where the Steelers are at, where Aaron is at, where I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play this year, if he plays at all. So for answers, make sure you guys stick around here. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Polymarket. Before we continue on with the rest of today's show, let's see what I've been trading on Polymarket. During Week 18's Pittsburgh-Baltimore matchup in Week 18 from this past year, Polymarket only gave Pittsburgh a 38% chance to win that game, which I thought was crazy because of the history between Pittsburgh and Baltimore and how close these games always tend to be. So for that reason, I took Pittsburgh at 38% to win that game, and I won $263 on just $100. Plus, with Polymarket, you can trade in and out of momentum shifts without getting blocked or penalized. With in-game trading, once Pittsburgh gets up, you can either ride it all the way through to the end of the game for a bigger payout, or you can sell early. For example, if you bought Pittsburgh at 38% in this particular football game and sold at just 70%, you could have snagged a cool $184 payout. You can't do this with a traditional sports book, so get started today. Polymarket is legal in all 50 states. Download the app now to get to the top of the wait list. The only way to do that is by clicking my link in the description and comments. And a big thank you to Polymarket for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Now, the big question when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers for me, guys, is how long is Pittsburgh willing to wait for a decision from Rodgers before potentially signing another free agent quarterback this year? Now, there was a report this week from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that Pittsburgh's plan B option at quarterback is actually Will Howard. So if that's the case, they can actually wait a while for Aaron Rodgers. In fact, they could maybe even wait a couple more weeks for Aaron Rodgers because apparently their plan B option is already on the roster. And, if Rodgers takes a couple more weeks and decides to retire, then maybe the Steelers, would still have an opportunity to get a Geno Smith or a Kirk Cousins or a Joe Flacco to bring in as a veteran competition piece for Will Howard and Latrobe. So if that's their plan B option, Will Howard, then I do think they have time to wait on a Aaron Rodgers decision. But I'll say this, guys, it does seem like Rodgers is interested in playing. He referred to himself on the Pat McAfee show yesterday as a free agent, and he says things like, we'll see what happens in free agency. He's been having multiple conversations with Mike McCarthy. He has daily conversations with his fellow Steelers teammates. Like, it just seems like he's interested in playing in 2026. But another question that we have to consider is, could Aaron Rodgers be considering a move to the Minnesota Vikings? Like, certainly you could say that that's a better situation, and apparently he was interested in playing for Minnesota last year before apparently Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, their now fired GM, pretty much shut that down. They've got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison as a really great wide receiver duo. They've got Kevin O'Connell, one of the best offensive play callers in football, who's also really close friends with Rodgers. But James Palmer, an NFL insider here, says there's really little chance that Rodgers is going to consider going anywhere else than Pittsburgh. He says, I don't think Aaron's playing anywhere other than Pittsburgh this year if he plays. The dialogue has been too intense between Aaron and Mike McCarthy. So it doesn't seem like Aaron is really considering anything other than the Pittsburgh Steelers, other than retirement at this stage. And I'll also say that Pittsburgh really seems confident that Aaron Rodgers will be their starting quarterback next year. Not only because they're putting it out there that their quote-unquote plan B option is Will Howard, a sixth-round pick that's never even played a preseason snap, but also it just seems like the conversations that they've had with Rodgers are really reassuring the Steelers that Rodgers wants to play, and he wants to play for us in 2026. Here's what a couple of Steelers insiders have said on this particular issue over the last week. Mark Caboli said, whatever Aaron told the Steelers in these conversations, have them believing he's coming back. So when will that be? I'm guessing that will be maybe next week during NFL free agency. Then Mike DeFabo from The Athletic says the best way to describe the Steelers' feelings, they think Rodgers is going to return for 2026, but until he gives them a definitive answer, they can't speak in certain terms. So, if I had to make a prediction, guys, I think we have a decision from Aaron Rodgers at the very latest by like next Thursday or maybe even next Wednesday. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Omar Khan, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, and his agent, all get on a call together this weekend and iron out a contract for Rodgers, which will be probably somewhere between $10 and $15 million on a one-year deal. And, Rodgers says that he doesn't have a contract in front of him from the Steelers yet, but maybe that's just because Rodgers and the Steelers have agreed to not talk contract until right up until, a potential, kind of deadline, if you want to call it that, right before the start of NFL free agency. And, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I want Aaron Rodgers to re-sign with me this offseason, which it does seem like Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy want to have happen this year, I would go get him a legit wide receiver 2 as fast as I possibly can, all right? Because Rodgers might be waiting around here and seeing, okay, is Pittsburgh going to get me a nice wide receiver 2 or not, and kind of waiting and seeing if that happens, because I'm not sure if Rodgers wants to hitch his wagon to the Steelers if Omar Khan is once again going to botch the wide receiver position this offseason. And it's very possible Rodgers wants to confirm that Omar is going to land a legitimate veteran wide receiver 2 to pair with DK Metcalf before he officially signs on the dotted line. And that's what we're going to be talking about on the second half of today's show, wide receiver rumors when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get into the wide receiver talk, let me know where you guys are at with the Aaron Rodgers situation right now. What is the percent chance that Rodgers is Pittsburgh's week 1 starting quarterback next year? Put it on a scale of 0, meaning no chance he's back next year, to 100, meaning he's definitely back on the team next season. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And now let's shift to the latest surrounding A.J. Brown. The Eagles reportedly want a quote-unquote Quinn Quinnen Williams level package in exchange for Brown's services in a trade. By the way, the Buffalo Bills, a prime A.J. Brown trade destination, just traded for DJ Moore this morning, so it would appear that the Bills are out of the running for A.J. Brown. Now, there's other teams that could be interested, namely the New England Patriots. That would be competition for the Steelers in a potential A.J. Brown trade market. But let's take a look at what Quinnen Williams went for at the trade deadline this past year, where Williams went to the Cowboys in exchange for a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and Mozzie Smith. Okay, so that is a pretty decent trade package there, a first and a second, and then a player. And, I'm not sure if this is something that the Pittsburgh Steelers are necessarily going to want to replicate, because I would say that, this is probably what it would look like for the Steelers if they want to kind of match that level of compensation. It would probably be a second-round pick this year, not a 2016 second-round pick, a 2026 second-round pick. That's number 21 overall. Actually, no, it's number 53 overall, not number 21 overall. And I think that I wanted the first-round pick in there, so that's a big F Ponzi right there on the trade graphic. But you guys can type those F Ponzis in the chat. So it's the first-round pick, Alex Highsmith and Roman Wilson in exchange for A.J. Brown. And, that's a lot, guys. That really is a lot for A.J. Brown, who's 29 years old. Now, yes, he's still under contract for 4 more years. You can make an argument he's still a top 5 receiver in the National Football League. He would pair super well with DK Metcalf. But, man, that is a lot to pay for if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I will say, if you want to get Aaron Rodgers' attention and you want him to sign on the dotted line as soon as possible, trading for A.J. Brown would certainly do that. To have A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf as your wide receiver duo heading into the year, not to mention any rookie receivers that you add this year in the NFL draft with your 12 draft picks. That's certainly going to be, meeting Aaron Rodgers' standards for wide receiver talent heading into the 2026 season. But I do think that price tag is probably going to be too rich for Pittsburgh's blood. I don't think they want to give up their first round pick, period, for a wide receiver in a trade this year, let alone give up Alex Highsmith alongside him in the deal, not to mention also Roman Wilson in the deal. But something that I think that they might consider is something like a second-round pick, which is number 53 overall, and Alex Highsmith in exchange for A.J. Brown. Now, Highsmith is somebody that I think is eventually probably going to get traded away from the Pittsburgh Steelers, whether it's this offseason or next. I do think he will probably be traded away from this team eventually. He's coming off a very good season, so he still has a very high trade value. And you pair that up with a second-round pick, like you can extend Nick Herbig after this potential deal. You get and you fix the wide receiver issue here in Pittsburgh with A.J. Brown being brought in. I think that this is probably what I would offer the Philadelphia Eagles. And if this isn't enough to get A.J. Brown here in the Steelers building, I'm probably moving on and trying to find someone else to fill that wide receiver 2 role. But would you guys accept this trade? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you trade this year's second and Alex Highsmith in exchange for A.J. Brown? Not only do you get Brown, but it also opens the door to extend Nick Herbig and lock him up for the foreseeable future. Give me an A if you would accept it, or type D if you would decline it. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Now, another potential star wide receiver that the Steelers could think about trading for here over the next week or so is Brian Thomas Jr. And Sports Illustrated's Connor Orr believes that BTJ is a very realistic trade candidate this offseason. This is what Connor had to say about the Jaguars receiver. Liam Cohen needs wide receivers suited specifically for his system. Trevor Lawrence preferred Parker Washington and gotta have it situations a year ago, and his specificity may lead to exploring options that make up for the draft capital Jacksonville lost in the Travis Hunter deal. Now, I actually think Connor makes some really good points here when it comes to Brian Thomas Jr. Jacoby Myers was awesome for that offense last year. Parker Washington was really the number 2 receiver towards the end of the season. Brian Thomas Jr. was essentially their wide receiver 3, and I know that Travis Hunter is moving to pretty much full-time cornerback, but if somebody offers Jacksonville a really good draft pick, like a very solid pick for Brian Thomas Jr., it would not surprise me if he is available via trade. Now, the question is, what exactly is that price tag? Now, he's a former first-round pick that still has 3 years left on his rookie contract if you include the 5th-year option. Very explosive player. player, and he's very well regarded in the National Football League. But he's coming off a down year where he had some drop issues, so that might drive down his draft value or his trade value a little bit lower. This is what Mark Kaboly thinks his trade value would be on the open market. If you're going to get a Brian Thomas, that's great. Bring him on in. Now, what are you going to give up for him? Probably not that much. Everybody always thinks it's going to be 2 firsts. No, probably not. Maybe not even a first or a second-round pick, indicating that the Steelers might be able to get BTJ for just a third-round pick. Now, listen, man, if that's actually the price tag for BTJ, Omar Khan should pull that trigger right now. Brian Thomas Jr., was a really good receiver in a really good wide receiver class. He's great after the catch. He's got incredible speed for his size, a 4.3 speed guy at over 200 pounds. Incredible deep threat. He's got a nice release package. Now, he did have some drop issues last year, but he is still very young. He's still on a rookie contract, and this guy has the potential to be like a top 10 receiver in the game one day. So, if you can get that kind of guy for just a third-round pick, Omar Khan has to get that deal done right now. But unfortunately, I do think that he will probably cost at least a second-round pick. It's very possible Jacksonville is asking for a first-round pick in exchange for Brian Thomas Jr. And, the question is he worth that? But you look at Brian Thomas, he's 23 years old, over 200 pounds, so he's got great size. He runs a 4.33 at that size, so he's an incredible athlete and great vertical threat. And, he has up to 3 more years left on his deal of cost-controlled rookie contract, which would be incredibly valuable, especially for a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are paying DK Metcalf $30 million per season. To have a guy on a rookie contract the next 3 years would certainly be valuable for Pittsburgh, especially a guy like BTJ, who could be their future number 1 receiver here in the Steel City. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. What is your best offer for Brian Thomas Jr.? Are you only giving up a second? Are you giving up a first? Are you giving up a first and some change? What is your best offer to bring Brian Thomas Jr. here to Pittsburgh? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Now, if you want to make Aaron Rodgers happy with a move at wide receiver here in free agency, I think Romeo Doubs definitely makes a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Doubs is somebody that has played pretty darn well for the Green Bay Packers, especially this last season. He's a big-bodied route runner type, and he's got some established chemistry with Rodgers. And right now, his projected contracts from Spotrac, PFF, and The Athletic are all around the same range. Spotrac has it a little bit lower, but honestly, with the wide receiver market being what it is, the cap going up $22 million this year, I think that, it's very possible Romeo Doubs, gets even more than the 15.2 that The Athletic is projecting right now. But at that price point, guys, below $20 million per season, Romeo Doubs is a no-brainer for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. He's exactly the type of receiver that the Steelers have been looking for, a big-body route runner that is going to run routes the way that Aaron Rodgers wants them to be run. He's got established chemistry with him, which is important for a guy like Rodgers, and he's not necessarily so good where you're not going to take a receiver early in the NFL draft, right? He could be a wide receiver 3 option for you if you get a really great wide receiver in the draft this year. So I really like the Romeo Doubs idea, guys. We'll see if the Steelers end up pursuing him. But there's another option that's out there that the Steelers were interested in at the trade deadline. That's Rashid Shaheed. Of course, he had the option to choose Pittsburgh or Seattle last year at the trade deadline, and he definitely picks correctly, winning a Super Bowl ring with the Seahawks. So you can't necessarily blame him for not picking the Steelers in that situation. But now that he's a free agent, could the Steelers pursue him again? It's very possible. But, I do like Shaheed, but, I think that there's a very valid question around him of, is he really what Pittsburgh needs right now? He is a true vertical threat and a special team specialist, okay? He's one of the best vertical threats in the game. He sets up those vertical routes extremely well. He tracks the ball really well down the field, and obviously he's got game-wrecking speed. But, if you're looking for somebody that's a dynamic route runner to the short and intermediate levels of the field, he's not really that. He's more of a true deep threat, and honestly, he's an upgraded version of Calvin Austin III. He's bigger than Calvin. I think that, he does a better job getting open down the field than Calvin does. And, you can make an argument he's certainly better as a return man than Calvin is. So, if you like Calvin Austin's skill set and you want to kind of upgrade it a little bit, Rashid Shaheed could be a really, really good wide receiver 3 option. Like, for example, if the Steelers plan on getting their wide receiver 2 in the draft in the first round this year, Shaheed would be an awesome deep threat as a wide receiver 3 to consider. But if you're getting him to be your legit wide receiver 2 this year, I'm not sure if he's exactly what the Steelers are looking for, especially at the price point here where it's like he's expected to get, at least $13 million per season, probably going to end up getting more than that. But, it's going to be interesting to see what Shaheed's market looks like and whether or not the Steelers are in on him once again here after trying to acquire him via trade at the NFL trade deadline last year. And then kind of in the same vein of like undersized vertical threats, Darnell Mooney is another name to monitor. The Falcons are releasing Mooney after a couple seasons where he's dealt with some injuries and he's had a really hard time staying healthy. In fact, he's never gone through an entire NFL season playing every single regular season game. He's always had the missed time with injuries. He's 28 years old, so he's getting up there. But he is an undersized and very shifty route runner. I think that he's better to the short and intermediate levels of the field than Rashid Shaheed is, but he still brings the verticality, brings the long speed, and the ball tracking ability that Shaheed brings to the table. So if you're looking for a more complete package as maybe an undersized route runner at the wide receiver 2 position, I think Darnell Mooney might be a more affordable option for the Steelers that they can consider. You guys can take a look at his stats over the last 4 years. Back in 2021, I believe it was, he had a 1,000-yard season there with the Chicago Bears. He got close to that in 2024, but he's a big play threat. He had 5 touchdowns in 2024 as well. Like, if you want to bring in somebody as like a nice wide receiver 3 piece that can run routes, that can run the deep stuff, can run after the catch, Darnell Mooney is a little bit of a risk because of the injury and the age stuff, but I do think that he's a decent wide receiver 3 option for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Then the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Ray Filipaldo has linked Mike Evans as a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. This is what Ray had to say about potentially bringing in Evans to pair him up with DK Metcalf. A guy like Mike Evans would make sense to me for the Steelers. Like, what would Evans cost at this stage of his career? I don't know. Like, he's not going to break the bank. The Steelers need like a veteran mentor. Now, listen, guys, I love Mike Evans. He's an awesome receiver. I think that he's definitely in the conversation to be a Hall of Famer. But Pittsburgh doesn't need another big-bodied vertical threat with a limited route tree. Like, Mike Evans is a true X receiver, and I think what the Steelers desperately need is somebody that's capable of consistently separating versus man coverage, somebody that can line up at a bunch of different positions, whether it's at X, Z, slot. Mike McCarthy talked about how he likes the versatility in his wide receivers, and Mike Evans at this stage in his career just doesn't provide that. Also, Mike Evans has said that he wants to return to the Buccaneers, and I just don't really see him being available for the Steelers to even grab if they wanted to. But honestly, like, if you're looking to acquire a Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver, I would say trading for Chris Godwin makes more sense. Godwin's contract is not a good situation for Tampa, so I think they'd be very open to trading him. And because of that, I think that the Steelers could acquire Godwin for like a day 3 draft pick. You got multiple of those. You got a number of those in the NFL draft this year. You spend one of those day 3 picks on Chris Godwin, someone that can play Z, someone can play in the slot, somebody that's been known as a great yak threat, as a great route runner that can win to the short and intermediate levels of the field. I think Godwin would be a really good fit here in Pittsburgh if the Bucs are willing to let him go. But then yesterday, New England announced that they're releasing Stefon Diggs, who was the number 1 receiving option for Drake May and the Patriots last year, once again getting over 1,000 yards. And, when Diggs stays healthy, this guy is a 1,000-yard receiver year in and year out. He's still an excellent route runner with really solid hands. On paper, I would say Stefon Diggs is a really, really good fit for what the Pittsburgh Steelers need at the wide receiver 2 position. The route running savvy, the ability to get open to all 3 levels of the field, the consistency with his hands, the route running savvy and the veteran kind of nature that he runs his routes. Like, it would be a perfect fit for what the Steelers need and a perfect complement to DK Metcalf. However, Diggs does have some legal trouble right now, which definitely complicates things, to say the least. And, I don't know if the Steelers really want to get involved with that, especially at this stage of the NFL offseason where everything surrounding Diggs' legal situation is still completely unresolved. So just keep that in mind when it comes to Diggs. Also, I don't know really what the price point's going to be with him because of the legal trouble stuff. It might drive that price tag down, which would interest the Steelers, but also he's coming off a really good season with the Patriots, which which, probably lends credence to him getting a decent chunk of change. So Stefon Diggs is just a really nuclear situation right now that I'm not sure the Steelers want to get involved with, but predict it for me down there in the comment section. Which veteran wide receiver will Pittsburgh bring in this offseason to pair with DK Metcalf? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section and give me your prediction. But that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk. I know today was a bit of a beast. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because Ponzi and I are planning to go live this afternoon starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to be talking a lot about free agency, the top free agency targets at receiver, at every single position for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So if you don't want to miss that, click that subscribe button and join us for Steelers Talk Live later this afternoon.